Okay, and if we're ready, we can go live.
Are we all good, folks?
All good.
All right, everybody.
All right. All right, folks. I think we're going to give it a minute for folks to start trickling in, but welcome to the second Public Safety Advisory Committee meeting. Imelda will get us started here in just a minute or two. All right, Imelda, do we want to get rolling on this?
Yes, I think we could go ahead and start. Good afternoon again. Welcome to our second Public Safety Advisory Committee. My name is Imelda Hernandez. I'm in Metro Citizen Security and Law Enforcement Department, and I've been working with you over the past couple of months as we've geared up. I did want to share, and just a reminder from our last meeting, that Metro partnered with Eslano Advisors and TLB Consulting to support Metro in facilitating our conversations, our meetings around public safety. I think you've been having some one-on-one check-ins with them, so hopefully those have been great. I've been hearing great recommendations on speakers, and so we look forward to compiling all that information as we move forward. I also wanted to add, before I turn the mic to Richard to continue with today's agenda, that we do have resources for ASL translation as well as in other languages. I know that's something that's been coming up in our last meeting. We do offer those services upon request, at least 72 hours notice, but as we've heard from our members, we want to see how we can provide these resources in our standing meetings. And so that's some information that we are gathering internally and working with our partners, our facilitator team, to see how we can provide those resources moving forward, regardless if they're requested or not. So we are hearing you, and we want to make sure that these meetings are available to as many individuals as possible. So we'll look into that. And so I know we're all very excited to start talking about the meaty content about public safety, but I think it's really critical to first start in creating a safe space, having these tough conversations, especially with everything that's been going on recently. And so please be patient with us as we first start to set the foundation, which is today's theme. But we're very excited and working behind the scenes to start putting some topics together for your review and consideration as we move forward in these meetings. And we have a lot of good content lined up for you. And so again, welcome to today's meeting. I'll pass on the mic to Richard. I'll be online, as well as Juan and Mello from the PSAC team and other Metro staff. And so in case any particular Metro question comes up, we're here to support you in that. And so I'll pass it on to Richard now.
Thank you, Imelda. Much appreciated, and welcome committee members and attendees. Excited to get this second meeting underway. I'll just echo what Imelda said, and part of these meetings is going to be really making sure that we've built trust and have a really solid foundation for which to really dive in and have those deep and thoughtful discussions about issues around public safety and the many different things that means to many different people, right? So we're all anxious to get there too, us, the facilitation team included, but we also recognize that we have to take a step back and kind of make sure that all of the committee members have a good understanding of where folks are at, where they're coming from, and how they are kind of bringing themselves into this topic, right? And so today's agenda very much reflects that, right? And so first we'll have our call to order, where we'll get hopefully a bunch of administrative things out of the way pretty quickly. But then the bulk of our meeting is really going to be spent on some extended check-ins with our committee members. So we're going to ask them 3 questions that we'll ask each committee member to respond to, and just share a little bit about how they're coming into this space, what their experience with Metro is and has been, and what they hope to accomplish as committee members, right? And after that, so that's going to be about an hour of our time, just checking in and getting to our committee members a little bit better. And then we're going to move to ground rules and kind of next steps. So that's just going to be, how are we interacting with each other as a body? And how are we going to kind of treat each other, and how are we as facilitators going to hold folks accountable to those kind of norms? And then talking through kind of a look forward. So looking at meeting 3, meeting 4, and thinking through what we need to accomplish by the time we go back to the full Metro board. And then we'll open it up to general public comment that wasn't had for the first 3 agenda items, and then we'll wrap. So it feels like a light agenda, but it will definitely take us the full hour and a half. So I'm excited to dive in. So getting to item 1, our call to order. So I am going to do roll call for committee members. I'm just going to do alphabetically by first name. So just listen out for your name. You can either pop into here via chat, and we will verbalize that, or you can unmute yourself and just say that you're here. So let's get started with Andrea.
Here.
Thank you. Ashley.
Here.
Carrie, you're up next.
Here.
All right, Charles.
Here.
Thank you. Chauncey.
Here.
Thank you. Clarence.
Here.
Thank you, Clarence. And just a reminder to mute yourself once you're done saying here. That brings us to Constance.
Here.
Thank you, Constance. Daryl.
Here.
Esteban.
Here.
Fabian.
Here.
Florence. We might be missing Florence. All right, Glenda.
I'm here.
Thank you, Glenda. James.
Here.
Thanks, James. Jessica.
Here.
Thank you, Jose.
Here.
Thank you. Mayan.
Here.
Thank you much. Marisela.
Here.
Thank you. Michelle. We might be missing Michelle. All right, Mohammed.
Hi, here.
Thank you, Raul. Not hearing Raul. I see you. So I'm gonna say you're here. Ron.
Here.
Thank you. Sabrina.
Here.
Thank you. Scarlett.
Here.
All right. Did I miss anyone or claim that anyone who was absent who is actually here? Perfect. All right, folks, let's move it right along to approval of the meeting minutes from April 7th. So I'm gonna pause sharing just so that we can see each other. First up, so this is how this will work. I'll ask for a motion to approve the minutes as they are. Then we can open up for discussion. And if anyone has comments or feedback on the minutes themselves, then just let us know. We'll second that motion and then we'll vote by raising hands on the committee. That all sound good? Okay, who's going to make that motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
All right, thank you, Marisela. Opening it up to discussion.
Don't you need a second?
Sorry, we do need a second. Is someone gonna second that?
I'll second that.
Raul, I think you beat Andre out, just barely. Any discussion on the item? All right. Hearing none, is it okay to close out discussion, move to a vote? All right, if panelists can use the raised hand feature to vote yes. All right, we have 14 yes votes. So that passes. All right, thank you, folks. Okay, next up.
Richard,
on
may
the-
I ask a question?
For sure.
I voted yes, so it's not that I want to vote no or abstain, but are we going to call for no's and abstentions? Just to be compliant with the Brown Act?
You know, that is something that we actually have to discuss as a board. But yes, we can call for any no's or abstentions because part of a future meeting will be talking through decision making and making sure that we've heard back that we might not necessarily want to follow Robert's rules. So yeah, so just that's going to be a committee discussion. But yes, I think we can just open it up. Are there any no votes? Any abstentions? Okay, Thank you, Marisela, for keeping us on it though. Okay, so that closes out approval of the meeting minutes from our April 7th meeting. And then this is just a quick follow-up to folks on providing public comments. So the first thing many of you will probably notice is that the Q&A feature has been disabled for this meeting, which is a change from our last meeting. And so we are attempting to streamline the process here and make it more aligned with other Metro subcommittee meetings. So to provide public comment, we'll be providing two methods using Zoom webinar feature, using Zoom webinars features. But the first thing is just the reminder, we're doing 1 minute per commenter. We'll have a timer this time around so that folks can keep track of their time. And so that's just holding folks accountable on that end. And then a reminder that we're doing 1 person per comment per item, right? Or 1 comment per person per item. And so to provide comment, as an attendee, you can raise your hand if you're participating online, and we will then unmute you so that you can speak. And the timer will come up at the same time, and that'll be when your clock starts. If you're participating by phone, similar process, just a different mechanism. So you'll still raise your hand, but you'll use *9 to raise your hand. And once the host acknowledges you, so Thompson from our team is going to be working with you on that, then you can use *6 to unmute yourself. And so this slide will become familiar to you all because we'll pop it up before every public comment period opens, just so that you all have a reminder of how we want to do that. For those of you who are using the chat, that we have reserved for any technical issues. So if you have trouble connecting or any of those technical issues, then please put that into the chat box and someone from our team will get back to you. But if it's a comment, just know that that's not going to be acknowledged. The reply from us will be, please raise your hand so that you can speak to the full group. All right. Okay, so the next thing is we are going to move into written comments, and I'm going to turn it over to Thompson.
Thanks, Richard. I'll be sharing several written comments that we received on our last meeting. So again, this dates back to the previous PSAG meeting, and we wanted to acknowledge those comments. Our first comment is from Frank. It reads, "Dear Metro, the people of Eagle Rock do not want a dedicated bus lane on Colorado Boulevard. They want to keep it green and beautiful. Thank you, Frank." Next comment. Comment number 2 is from Dana. "I have been an activist on public transit issues since 1994. For many years, my sole means of mobility was transit. Due to being a semi-invalid before the pandemic, I was using access services, but still occasionally riding the bus. Currently, I'm staying in. For many years, I attended Metro board meetings. They gave me a front row seat to the evolving policing situation back to the original LAPD-LASD partnership of the 90s. And in that time, I've gradually become a critic, and my objections have only accumulated. It is time to end the partnership approach after 20 plus years as fatally flawed and a depressingly swelling money pit. While not easy, I believe bringing back the Metro Police is the best course. This 2004 report outlines the challenges to doing that. I urge the last Metro Police Chief Sharon Papa testified before the committee if her health allows, sharing her insights after a very distinguished career. Another that would be able to provide insight is Sid Heel, who did an assessment of Metro's policing arrangements some years ago." Next comment. Comment number 3 is from Lionel. "Hello, PSAC. I want to take a moment to congratulate you on being chosen for the Public Safety Advisory Committee. I've attached a video of a disturbing trend that has been reoccurring on our public transportation. On March 18th, 2021, I was riding the Metro Red Line subway to downtown Los Angeles. I noticed a male passenger who was yelling at other transit riders. I recorded the incident via smartphone. I attached the video for your viewing. As a transit rider, I am fearful for my safety and security while riding the Metro bus and subway. As you're all aware about the homelessness and mental illness crisis we're facing in our city, the video shows that urgency of our social problems. Many people on both sides want to resolve the problem that we are facing. There are many people who are demanding that MTA defund the police, and on the other hand, there are those who want more police presence because of crime and safety concerns, such as violence, theft, robbery, sexual crimes, drugs, etc. I'm asking the PSEC board to do something about this. We can have qualified counselors on the ground to attend to some kind of assistance to mentally ill individuals who are experiencing a mental health crisis. We must find solutions to homelessness and crime on public transportation. Next comment. This is from RT. I'll wait for the timer. Hello, I'm writing this email to make a suggestion to rename the Metro Transit Security Department name to a more enlightening or welcoming name to avoid any negative connotations that the police and security are associated with during these difficult times with police/security personnel. I feel that the title of the department should be changed to a more welcoming, professional, and positive name to be able to associate the willingness of the department looking to change its mission in helping the community by providing resources to better the transit experience and to help its employees in the need of safety services. The names that sound positive to the public are Metro Transit Public Safety, Metro Transit Safety, Metro Transit Protective Services, providing counseling, safety, and security, hence the protective services. And number 4, Metro Transit Protection. I think these titles give the department a more approachable and positive connotation with what the Public Safety Advisory Committee is attempting to accomplish. Moving on to our next comment. This is from Marcia. I'm a 75-year-old woman. Before the pandemic, I rode the Metro train and to and from the Pantages at night with a female friend. We were both parked in the Metro garage at Jefferson La Cienega stop. When we returned after 11 p.m., there were at least 8 Metro officers on the platform. When we alone went to our separate floors on the parking garage, neither of us saw any more security. Luckily, we did not encounter anyone else. I was on the ground level, which has several openings to the street and alley. My request is that officers on duty in the garage and walk from the platform into the garage when passengers disembark at night. Next comment. This comment is from Abe. Hello, my name is Abe Bradshaw. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to provide a comment, and congratulations to all the new committee members. I have lived in LA for 13 years without a car. I believe LA is a city and county that deserves reliable, safe, and extensive public transit. Sadly, I have grown more and more concerned about the state of security on both metro, rail, and bus systems. I used to tell all of my friends that they should ride the metro more. Then I stopped recommending the metro to my female friends. And over the past few years, I stopped recommending it to anyone. I am a 6'3", 200-pound male military veteran, and still 85% of the time that I board a bus or train, my self-defense radar is turned on for one reason or another. Simply, the safety and cleanliness need to improve on the metro immediately. There are several simple steps that can be taken that would make a huge positive difference, and more people who actually ride the trains and buses should be helping to implement the real tough changes that need to happen. I hope this committee is a first real step in that direction. Next comment. This is our final comment from Dominic. I received an email inviting to attend an internet meeting of Metro's Public Safety Advisory Committee. I would like the committee to know that Metro needs to do more to compel compliance with the federal government's requirement that all passengers on public transit wear face masks. I have seen neither the police nor any civilian persons trying to compel the use of masks. And that's the end of public comment.
Thank you, Thompson. All right, that is the end of written public comments. And now we move to live public comments for agenda item number 1. I see a couple of hands raised. Turn it back over to you, Thompson.
Thank you, Richard. The first hand raised is Bernadette. Bernadette, I will unmute you, and then you'll need to unmute yourself. You'll have a minute for public comment.
Okay, hi, and thank you very much for holding this meeting. Over a year ago, you attended the Inglewood Aviation Commission meeting, And that was just the beginning of the Metro rollout. And I'm a commissioner on that board. We have a couple questions. Have routes been established? Have hours of operation been established? And have rideshare fees been established? That's all. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment, Bernadette. Caller ending in 9437. I'll go ahead and ask you to unmute. To unmute on a phone, you dial *6 to unmute on a phone.
Yes. Hello.
Caller ending in 94. You have a minute.
Thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. Obviously, you talk about a million different topics with regards to MTA, and there's a whole A to Z world of how to manage the system. All I can tell you is this: as far as security goes, ever since MTA switched from LA County Sheriff and LA County Sheriff security personnel over to LAPD, the security forces have been cut more in half. Okay. I really don't think many MTA staff members, executive board members, Mr. Garcetti, Mayor Garcetti, LA County supervisors, and other MTA community associates, whoever you want to call yourselves, really understand how bad the security situation is out here on the buses and the light rail system. I'm going to tell you this right now. If I ever get lucky enough to get married and have children, I will not allow my wife and my kids to ride your system. This is chaos out here, and you guys are not doing enough. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comment. Our next comment is Francis. Francis, I will allow you to speak, and please unmute yourself. You have a minute for your comment.
Hi, I'm one of the people that live in LA and ride Metro regularly, including even COVID period. One thing I've noticed at the night trains, whether it's Expo, a red line, purple line, blue line, whatever the line, a lot of people smoke marijuana in it. And sometimes you report to the security people over there or police, there's nothing they do about it. I've seen people doing it several times, and it's so not hygienic and it's so not good, especially at night. You don't know if you say something to somebody, they want to fight you. I've been encountered with at the knife point for complaining. And so I want you guys to look into that, because the people that ride the train at night suffer a lot. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment, caller. Our next comment is Richard. Richard, I'm going to allow you to talk, and then you may unmute yourself.
Thank you very much. I'm very appreciative of this committee. I've been riding both LA and San Francisco Bay Area transit for many, many years. I have both a Clipper and a tap card, and I've watched safety disintegrate on BART. I feel safer on the LA system when I'm riding in LA, but still have some problems. I will tell you that ridership has begun to drop over these safety issues tremendously before the pandemic, especially off-peak. So we have to get this figured out, or we're going to destroy public transit. We need to find ways to create equity for people and also create safety for the ridership of these various systems. And it's a problem nationwide. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment, caller. Up next, we have Lionel. Lionel, I'm going to allow you to talk, and you may unmute yourself. You have 1 minute.
Hi, thank you very much. I'm calling because when I take the subway, for example, red line, the blue line, and I noticed that there's a lot of trash and litter scattered around the trains, including the buses, but especially the subways. What can we do? What can Metro do to maybe hire more people to clean up the mess, because I noticed that when there's trash or plastics or on a seat, many people, including myself, don't sit down. We just stand because I don't want to get near anything that, you know, may look dirty or, you know, food, things like that. Thank you for it very much.
Thank you for your comment, caller. We have one final comment. Nahima, I'm going to allow you to talk and you can unmute yourself if you have 1 minute for your comment. Nahima, you have 1 minute for your comment. Okay, that is the end of public comment, Richard.
Thank you, Thompson. And just a heads up for attendees, I've also circulated the slide deck so that you all can follow along separately since we won't always have it up. And for the next section here, we're moving into item number 2 now. Our next step is really what we're going to spend the bulk of this conversation on today. And so that's going to be checking in with our committee members. And so I'm only going to leave this deck up for a quick minute just to do this brief introduction from Tamika and myself. But we just wanted to give the heads up that moving forward, we're going to have an abbreviated version of this, but we're going to have a committee member check-in just as a standard feature of all of our agendas, just so that we've got a touch point for everyone to just understand how folks are entering the space as the weeks go on and how folks are progressing as we're having discussions. So just wanted to set that foundation and set that expectation for today. And Tamika will introduce this in a little bit more detail, but we're giving each of our members, our committee members, 2.5 minutes to answer 3 questions. But before we did that, I'm going to turn it over to Tamika to just talk about the context in which we're having this discussion and just everything that's going on in the world around us. So Tamika, I will turn it over to you.
Thanks, Richard. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us for our second meeting. As you see, Richard and I are now stepping more into the facilitation roles, and we know how eager people are to get to the work, the meat of what we're doing and meet timelines. And especially for folks who are newer to this type of community meeting, we want you to understand that part of what we're doing is creating the container of which we're going to put in all the ingredients to do this work. And in creating that container, what we have to do is hold space for one another. And so one of the things we just wanted to acknowledge is that it's a difficult time right now. It's a difficult time for me as a Black person, as a mother of 2 Black children. It's a difficult time for Richard as a Black man, as someone who has relatives in a place facing a natural disaster right now. And it's not just because we're Black, though that's a big part of it, but it's because when we come into these spaces, we all bring our full selves. And sometimes in public meetings like this, we don't really have time to just check in and say, how are you doing? But we just want to try to start to create the space, because this is a group that's about public safety, that's about thinking about reimagining public safety. And though that is something that we might have very theoretical conversations on, for all of us who are a part of this group, for all of the members of the public who are taking their time to call in, it doesn't matter what your perspective is, if it's the same as this person's or that person, we're all people and we're all bringing our unique experiences and our unique identities. And those things are colliding as we process the world and we process the things that we're supposed to do. And just as a Black person in this country, as I think about Dante Wright, as I think about Adam Toledo, as I think about Ma'Khia Bryant, as I think about the verdict of yesterday's trial, we know that sometimes it's hard to show up and be on Zoom and be a public figure, and just process it all. So we want to thank all the members of this committee for their time. We want to thank the members of the public who are pushing through. And you know, we know that there are continued calls to recognize the value of Black lives. We know there's an ongoing movement to reject racism and xenophobia and gender-based violence directed at members of Asian American and Pacific Islander communities. And so on this next slide, we've asked you 3 questions, and we'll bring that slide back up. And the 3 questions are gonna be responding to some of what we heard at the last meeting, that folks wanna know how you all interact with Metro, and folks wanted to hear a little bit more what you were thinking about on public safety. And that last question is, what do you hope to accomplish? And we want you to feel okay to replace that question with the first thing I said, how are you doing? We know that standing up and doing this work can sometimes feel exhausting. And so again, we appreciate you. We want to give the public a chance to see the brilliance that is this committee, to see who was selected and why you do this work and how you interact with Metro. But we would be remiss if we did not acknowledge all that was happening in the world in the way that it weighs heavily on many of us. I said that, you know, we might have taken a breath yesterday, but for many folks, it's still hard to breathe. And so thank you for being present in any way you can, and we will pass it over to you because we would like to get to know you a bit more.
Perfect. So I am going to just share. These were the one-word definitions, at least as I took them down from our last meetings. I will also have this slide up separately and remind you all just when you get started. But I'm gonna take down the slide deck now so that we can see folks' faces and get started with, let's do it in reverse alphabetical order this time. So Scarlett, you're gonna be our first person, and your word was community last time.
Hi everyone. First of all, thank you Tamika for saying all of that and putting it out there, because as we all know, it's been a really heavy week in many ways. So I want to start first talking a little bit about my interactions with Metro. I grew up in Koreatown, Los Angeles, and went to school in Reseda. So I've been riding public transportation all of my life. Grew up in a Guatemalan immigrant working class family with family members who were transit dependent. My first memories and some of my best memories of hanging out with my great grandma are taking public transportation to downtown Los Angeles, to Santee alleys, to church, her taking me to school, etc. So public transportation has been part of my whole life. I've owned a car briefly, but choose to still be transit dependent. So yeah, so I've been riding public transportation. So when you all call in and share your experiences, I can see them visibly. So whether we agree or not, whatever you're sharing that's personal, I've also been through those situations and can see it in my head. So just wanted to say that. Also, I worked with Alliance for Community Transit Los Angeles, and we have an active transit justice campaign where we're organizing transit riders around bus service, divestment from policing contracts, and also around fare free transit. And then what was the other questions? The third question was on expanding on our word. My word was community. I believe safety is community. That feeling when you feel in community, where you feel safe, you feel like people got you, you know where you're gonna get your food, where you're gonna, you know how when you arrive to a place that place is set up for you, and you kind of know what your interactions and either physical or where the other people are gonna look like. And that's where I hope this group can get to really come up with some great recommendations that at the end can possible. When we walk into Metro, we feel in community. Thank you.
Thank you, Scarlett. I know the timer seems super intrusive, but with our 20+ committee members trying to run a tight ship here. Sabrina, you are up next. And the word that you shared last week went for the hyphen, people-centric.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Sabrina Howard. I have lived in Los Angeles for about 7.5 years at this point. I came here in 2013 to pursue my doctoral degree at USC. And I initially came out here, I didn't have a driver's license. I still don't have a driver's license. And everyone told me, you know, that I would have to learn to drive if I was going to live in Los Angeles. And I kind of just said, you know, I'll figure it out. We'll see. And I got here and started taking transit and realized that, you know, none of my friends took transit. A lot of the people I knew who grew up in the city didn't take transit. And I was having these really interesting experiences taking the buses and trains. And so eventually I kind of shifted my graduate studies to study transit, largely in part because so much of my day-to-day life in this city was wrapped up in the experiences that I was having on buses and trains. And I felt like there was something politically significant about those experiences that I was having. And so everything that you all have said, very similar to Scarlett, like everything you said resonates, everything you've said are things that I've also witnessed and experienced. And I agree that there's a lot of work to be done in terms of making transit feel safe, feel accessible, and feel like, you know, spaces that people feel comfortable being in. So transitioning into the idea of being people-centric, as someone with an urban studies background, a sociology background, everything that I do is rooted in people and their needs and their desires and the ways that they want to use urban space. And so any policies or any kind of changes that we make in relation to Metro have to be rooted in you all's experience. And so you all are the experts on Metro as far as I'm concerned. And I would hope that any of the outcomes of this committee will be rooted in you all's actual needs and being able to design transit in alignment with all of the feedback that we're getting from you. So that's kind of the goal to facilitate that happening.
Thank you, thank you. Ron, you are up next and your word was peaceful.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Yes, my word was peaceful. I would say I said peaceful because for me as a bus operator at Metro currently right now, it's more about a relaxing, quiet, and safe ride. I want all my passengers that get on the bus to feel that way. And so when I hear people mention about how the safety is not up to par, we do understand because I'm out there every day making sure I get my transit patrons to their location. Now, I grew up in South Central California. I've rode the bus since I got here. I was a immigrant from Belize. I came over here when I was 13 years old. So I went to Manual Arts Senior High, graduated from there, went to Los Angeles City College. All this time, my only means of transportation was Metro. So I was up and down the Vermont line for approximately 10 years as far as my schooling goes. Now I am still in university right now trying to get my bachelor's in political science. So what I want to accomplish at this PSAC committee is the safety. That is the main concern, is the safety. I want to hear different ideas from the general public. I want to know what ideas anyone have that could possibly be passed on to Metro. That way we can make it safer, where we can make it better, because these stories, they do need to go away, and we can do better, and we will do better to try to make this city as safe as possible. And one of my concerns is, as far as the sheriffs and LAPD, I do believe both of them do a good job. Colleagues that I spoke to, they do mention that they do like the LAPD that, contract that actually was changed because they actually see the LAPD more frequently. So I'm very surprised, and I'm interested to hear more from the public because multiple people said that the sheriff department was better. So it's a very interesting dynamic that's going on in between which law enforcement would be better for Metro. So at the end of the day, I just want everyone to be safe. So thank you.
Thank you. Raul, you are up next.
Hello, can you hear me?
Can hear you.
Good, good. I want to thank all the committee for allowing me to be, I guess, the newest member. Been with the company since '84. Drove the bus for 25 years. I'm on the red line now, and I do see and hear and acknowledge and appreciate all the comments that have been made as far as the safety, the trash that's seen everywhere on the platform, on the right of way. We do have to address this differently and more aggressively. I believe that the company has to be more proactive and get together with the agencies that have the ability to enable MTA, LAPD, security to beef it up a little bit to provide. Again, safety is our priority. And I know when I'm out there, I try to give my passengers a smooth ride, keep them informed with things that are taking place around them. But then again, I understand that the safety is priority, and I believe we should maybe emphasize using the security that's there, that really their hands are tied, maybe put them at the different stations above ground to maybe persuade or discourage a lot of the homeless people from entering the subway to begin with. Perhaps maybe checking their passes with terrorists, in throughout the world and in this country. Perhaps maybe even asking to look at their belongings, and who knows, maybe you ruffle enough feathers with the people that are coming down to the bus subway, such as the transients and homeless people that we would consider 5150 unstable. If we can persuade them or discourage them from coming down, we'll be able to get more of our regular riders that have been decreasing over the past year. So I'm all for it. I'm willing to put my input and take all information myself. Thank you.
Thank you, Raul. Mohammed, you are up next. And your word last time was dignity.
Thanks, Richard. Thanks, everyone. Again, my name is Mohammed Tajsar. I appreciate membership on this committee, and appreciate everybody else who's going to be a part of this project. So just a little bit about myself. I grew up in the Los Angeles area. After moving to the country, we moved straight to LA when I was 6. And I grew up in the kind of Palms area in West LA, and throughout middle school, high school, and college, I went to school at UCLA, and I used public transit the entire time. So primarily buses. So I've kind of, and then kind of in my adulthood, have been, I'd say probably about a quarter, I'd say, of my travel is through the metro system. And so I spent many hours kind of growing up on kind of 1.5, 2 hour rides each way. I used to go to school in Boyle Heights, but I lived on the west side, so I spent about 3 or so hours a day in high school on the bus. So that was fun. in terms of just a couple thoughts on my word dignity that I think is relevant here. I mean, to me, the reason why I said dignity is because to me, dignity is about being worthy of sort of respect or honor. And I think it's often easy to demand or wish kind of dignity for ourselves or people in our sort of station in life, but it's hard to see how those with lesser kind of means or access or social capital, how those folks might also be worthy of honor or respect. And to me, I think the question of public safety is in part a question about how to provide dignity, honor, and respect to those who are least among us. And just to name who that might be, I think those are folks who, for instance, folks who are unhoused or folks who don't have, who aren't as abled or who live with persistent physical disabilities, people who might suffer mental illness. I think we have to figure out how to assist and provide those people, the least among us, with the kind of dignity that we want for ourselves. So that's kind of my goal in this space. Thank you.
Thank you. And Michelle is not able to join us today, which brings us to Marisela. And your word was inclusive.
Thank you, Richard, and thank you, everyone. My name is Marisela De Rivera. I really appreciate this practice that we're going through, and I realize that for the public, it's not the meat of the work that we will hopefully engage in soon and make a real difference and impact for the riders of Metro. And so I appreciate everyone's patience. I do think this is an important component. I come to this work as a queer woman, as a Latina, as somebody who grew up in Boyle Heights in East LA, and have ridden Metro long before it was called Metro. RTD was a big part of our lives when I was a kid. And I also served now that I live in Long Beach, I've lived all over LA County. I served on Long Beach Transit's board of directors for 8 years. So I really hear the staff and the operators and the folks who have the day-to-day job of getting passengers somewhere safely. And I want to make sure that we also keep our staff safe, our operators. And so to me, my word of inclusive is just, it's big and it's important because, you know, my best friend is a Filipina woman. As a queer woman raising a queer child who will someday take the train up to LA without me, I think about how we keep people safe in a world where Ma'Khia Bryant can be killed the same day that we, you know, convict somebody else for the same thing. How do we keep people safe from, and how do we keep people safe with? And that's what I think of when I think of law enforcement and public safety. I think about just, you know, it's important to think of everyone. And I love what Mohammed said about dignity, because everyone, whether they are, you know, close friends of mine who are using wheelchairs or unhoused, everyone deserves our inclusive, thoughtful approach to safety. And so I'm grateful for this space. Thank you.
Thank you, Marisela. Mayan, you are next up, and your word last time was freedom.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, everyone, for sharing. It's been great to just kind of get to know people a bit more. So I'm pretty new to LA. I've been living here for about 7 years or so, sometimes with a car, sometimes without. And so the times I haven't had a car, I've been transit dependent, using Metro, mostly buses and a little bit of rail too. And then even when I do have a car, I ride Metro because I think it's important to be connected to your city in that kind of way. more recently, I looked into some of Metro security and safety practices for my master's capstone project this past year, and analyzed and assessed kind of what work is already being done and what are some of the shortfalls and kind of also opportunities as well. My word freedom, it really to me represents kind of having people, all writers, be able to utilize the system and not have to be looking over their shoulders, not have to be concerned about what kinds of interactions they might have, and just be able to get from A to B without stress, without worry. That's kind of what that freedom means to me. And my goal kind of as part of this committee, I really think it's important for us to kind of work together and think outside the box about how Metro provides safety and security services, and really expanding kind of the current contract into to be more creative, to be more innovative, and to also kind of measure success and measure metrics of success in different ways as well. So yeah, I guess I have 30 seconds left, so I'm going to share more about myself. I grew up in the Bay Area. My parents came here from Israel, and then I was born shortly afterwards. I rode the Bay Area public transit growing up. It kind of allowed me to open my horizons and expand my worldview and perspective as well. So I think it's important that transit provides an opportunity to do that. That's it. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Mayan. We'll move next to Jose, and your word last time was innovation. Sorry, Jose, you're on mute.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name's Jose, and I currently work in transit operations, vehicle operations, which is, out in the field. I've worked the busiest district of our agency, which borders Alvarado on the east, Wilshire on the south, Vine on the west, and Hollywood on the north. So you can only imagine how dense and busy that area is. I have all kinds of experience working with, different situations, different law enforcement agencies, and so on and so forth. My interaction with Metro, and I've been privileged to have been working for Metro for going on 18 years now as a supervisor, and I work in the live in the Northeast area. I've worked in the Operations Central Instruction, which primarily teaches new folks how to drive a bus. I've taught class there as well. I've worked at the divisions as a division instructor to follow up with operators and to kind of put some reinforcement with the experienced operator, especially those freshly coming out of the OCI instruction. I've worked in dispatch, so I've worked with different agencies, both the sheriff's, security, and the LAPD. So I've had extensive experience working in that capacity. And it's been a wild ride. It's every minute. It's been very enjoyable. Metro's a wonderful place to work. My word innovation, and this is kind of talking based upon my experience working out in the field with different situations, is targeting a specific area of concern, especially when we develop programs or approaches. I'm a firm believer that not one size fits all. Each experience and each person is unique, and each person requires, a unique approach. Our job is to carry passengers, to take them in a comfortable manner from point A to point B, and it's essential that we continue that service and work with the publics and their support. And I think this committee will accomplish quite a bit, especially if they can draw upon my experience. Thank you all.
Thank you, Jose. Up next is Jessica, and your word last time was universal.
Hi, everyone. I'm excited to be here. Yes, my word was universal. And Muhammad is a former classmate of mine twice over. We went to middle school together and college together unknowingly. So that's an example of this universal experience that we have where we have access to this mode of public transportation, but like our colleague Jose just mentioned, the experience isn't necessarily universal, but the idea of resiliency and access and the resources provided should be. So I hope to accomplish, as we all do, an improvement to public safety, an improvement to access, and an improvement of the shaping of public perception when people use or think of using Metro, because it's a public space, just like the sidewalk is, and or a park. And those are points for collaboration and engagement. And each time I think about using the train or the bus, I'm thinking about going somewhere, reaching a destination safely. And I do have I have friends and cousins and other people I know who use the bus or maneuver through the city differently, but the way we think about whether we have to protect ourselves, what, safety protocol is in place is a little different for everyone. But I think that the mission is to make the concept of transportation carefree. That's the ideal route. And like I think Dr. Howard said, people don't necessarily think of public transportation as being synonymous with living in Los Angeles. And if you're seen walking down the street, you're kind of seen as a target or someone who can be misled and misguided. And if you get on the bus, you're opening yourself up to issues, and that shouldn't be the case. And I think, using different modes of public transportation and riding your bike to get on the bus, to go to the beach, to come back, and maybe taking an Uber back home should be available to everyone. So making this universal traverse through Los Angeles should be our goal. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. All right, up next is James. And James shared last time the concept of responsive listening.
Hi, everybody. My name is James Wen. I self-identify as a transgender man. My pronouns are he, him, and his. Thank you, Richard. I'd like to also thank all of the folks that made comments this evening, my colleagues, and especially the Metro staff who've supported us throughout our 2 meetings. So like some of you, I came upon some economic challenges and had to make an economic decision. And so for the past 2 years, I went without a car and solely rode Metro services, and from time to time also used rideshare services, including Via, which now became Metro Micro. I have ridden every single Metro line, as well as the Metro Rail, and have been to all 8 service provider areas in LA County. And one of the things I'm most proud of is that I've been able to reach my destination using Metro services. I will say that I tend to more use the Google Maps and have been trying to switch over using the Metro application. But I did like the Google Maps because I was able to let them know how crowded the bus or the Metro train was at any given point in time. My word was responsive listening. And I didn't just choose listening, but I chose responsive listening. And to show, I wanted to say some of the commenters, one of them wrote, the people of Eagle Rock didn't want to have a bus lane. So I want to thank that commenter and also ask Metro staff if you could maybe also provide that individual, if there's an environmental committee that maybe this individual needs to also make that comment or share that comment to. The commenter Dana had mentioned a Sid Hill Metro Policing Board report. And for this meeting minutes, if you're able to locate that referred policing board report from Sid Hill, that would be great. I think for all of us to see. There was a reason why that Dana Mae mentioned that. What I like to see from this Metro Safety Board is the ability to have more services, because I think the more services we have in helping the people, we'll be able to find that ridership will feel safer. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Up next, we've got Glenda, and the word Glenda shared last time was surveillance.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Glenda Merle. I grew up in Boyle, well, I was born in Boyle Heights, and I was raised in South Los Angeles. And the highlight basically was on the weekend, and we would get on the bus, which was the 49 back then, go downtown to the movies and shoppings and eat at Clifton's. And that was a big thing. And then through school, I went to Southgate High School, Southgate Junior, so I had to, take the bus. I started my career with Metro in 1997 as a bus operator. I went full-time in 98. And two of my favorite lines was the 56. It's not the 56 anymore, but it went straight through Watts. And the other one was a 105 from Vernon Yard to Hollywood. And I'll tell you, once you interact with the people, they won't allow anybody to do anything to you. I came to the goal line in 2004. I've been a mentor, and I've been able to go back to school and get my degree through our tuition reimbursement program. And I chose the word surveillance for a personal matter. Basically because, you can pick your friends, but you can't pick your family. And to me, you work with people every day and they become like your family. And unfortunately, one of my family members was hurt. And I feel like a closer observation, especially for a suspect or a spy or criminal, that's why I chose surveillance, because that's basically what it means. And I think that would be a very important part of our safety committee. I just want to be a part of, I feel like I'm a leader, and I just want to be a part of this great opportunity to try and improve a safer system, not just for the employees as well as our customers. And that's the most important part. Get from point A to point B safely without any incidents. And that's basically it. And my input as far as like the sheriff and the LAPD, I'm old school, so I grew up with the sheriff, but LAPD's back, and they've been showing up pretty good. So thank you, guys.
Thank you, Glenda. All right, up next is Florence.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Sorry I'm late. I was actually getting off the bus and walking back home. So I was so glad when he said he was gonna do it reverse-wise. So thank you. My name is Florence Anang. I was born in Ghana, West Africa, in a village called Takoradi. Most people know it as the Omino Castles, the window of no return. I went to England with my parents, raised in England, and I am what you would call now a reverse missionary. I have after school and summer camp in Northwest Pasadena, TK through 7th grade, Black and brown kids and families. I ride the Metro, and I believe my word was round trip, because I get everywhere, on all the lines, and sometimes, not very often, but sometimes come back late, and it's about, that whole round trip, and seeing the things, seeing the experiences and the people and everything means a lot to me. And it also means seeing, the homeless, but also knowing that it's the reality that you're 1 degree away from that. And there it is for you, and you have to give them that dignity. You have to give them that honor. You have to give them that humanity in that moment, as much as you can. And I think that's important. I think that's that beautiful struggle when you're on the metro, is that we're all clashing together, and we're all trying to get somewhere. So I definitely use it in the summer. I take my kids, we get on the metro. If you've ever had, before COVID, 60 kids trying to get to Santa Monica Pier, changing from the gold line to the purple line, to the from the purple line to the blue line, it's intense. But it's beautiful because you have families, you have, you know, students, and then you have your kids, and they really get to experience with their own eyes traveling through the metro. For me, this experience is about learning. I want to absorb everything. I want to learn from everybody that's that I'm seeing right now, and listen. I want to listen. I don't, you know, a part of who I am in Pasadena is I am a police reform organizer. And so that's where I show up. And I show up to, for how can I put this? I'm a person that if you protest, you have to learn to invest. Like if you're going to protest, there has to be a side that it moves from protest to investing in whatever the injustice is. And so that's where I show up. So I just want to learn and really enjoy this idea of, somebody said, reimagining safety, and how I like to go on the metro and my other friends. And it really is, as a single, like Black woman, you know, it's about safety, but it's about being aware of yourself, but it's also about getting home. Thank you.
Thank you, Florence. Fabian is up next, and the word he shared last time was comfort.
Hi, folks. Florence, I really enjoyed listening to you speak. That was great. Awesome. So my name is Fabian. I'm not from Los Angeles. I haven't been here for 20 years. I grew up in the Central Valley. I grew up in a really small migrant community south of Bakersfield. I think for me growing up, transit was non-existent. I think the car was, you know, kind of life and death. If you didn't have a car, you know, you couldn't get to unemployment office, you couldn't get to a clinic. And I think that's one of the reasons why I chose to study transportation as a career. I went to graduate school, studied city planning, I studied transportation engineering. I moved to the Bay Area and I lived there for several years, car-free. I rode the bus everywhere. You know, I think living in the Bay Area, I saw all sorts of interesting things on the bus and on the rail. And I think kind of what I was hearing also from Florence is that, I mean, you see a lot of things on transit, and one of the things that I love about transit is that it is just an agglomeration of a bunch of different people on a bus or train at the same time that probably usually wouldn't be together. And I think one of the things I'm excited about, but also I don't know if it'd be nervous, but just to kind of see how do we as a group come up with a solution for this thing, because you know, you have a right to go on the bus and get to your destination, but you know, if our city isn't investing in unhoused folks and places to put them, what right do we have to tell them they don't belong there? And I think I think that's going to be something that we have to work through, and I'm here for that. I think yeah, I think the question, sorry. So my interaction with Metro, my first interaction with Metro was I actually bought a car the minute I moved to LA, thinking I'm going to need it because they don't have transit down there, but you all did. And I think my first interaction with Metro actually was I took the Expo line and I arrived in Union Station, and I was like just shocked to see just the military folks everywhere. There was like tons of officers with huge guns everywhere. And I thought, like, this is so weird. Why is it like this at their train station? Like, this isn't welcoming. It's not I wanted to get out of there. And I think for my one word on safety, I'm sorry, I'm going over comfort. I think it's a combination of a lot of the elements a lot of other folks have said. I think if you're a user of our system, you know, you should, when you take transit, you should be as comfortable on the bus as I am at like my mom's couch or something. Like, you're going to go there, you're going to sit there, you're going to get to your destination, and you shouldn't have to worry about being harassed or an officer asking for you for like identification or something. And for our drivers, you know, the ideal would be, you know, they go in and they drive the bus, they drive the rail, and that's the most stressful situation is, you know, something breaks on the bus and you have to call it in. And then for what I have to accomplish from the committee, the minimum is like, we need to change how we do public safety at Metro. I think this one way approach of just policing, it's not working. And I think there's a lot of possibilities to expand this toolkit. And again, I think that'll be the role of this committee. And my hope is that we send some like killer recommendations to our board of how we fix things and particularly fund those solutions.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, Fabian. Up next is Esteban. And your word that you shared last time, Esteban, was trust.
Hi, everybody. I want to echo what others have said and thank the Metro staff and the moderators, consulting team. This is a great effort. I'm very honored to be part of it. So I've been interacting with Metro for a long time. I'm from Walnut Park, which is in the southeast of downtown, east of South Central. And I went to middle school out in the South Bay. So I started as a 13-year-old taking the green line, the C line, east, taking it home, and then transferring to the A line. My home station is Florence. And I now take the 60. I rely on the 60 bus a lot to get me downtown, the 102 and the 611. So I'm right here in the southeast. And you know, I'm from an area that was transit rich back in the 30s and 40s. My neighborhood was on the old streetcar system, and so I've loved learning about that and want to be part of taking it back to that, right? My mom took RTD back when it was RTD to Cal State LA, so I come from family that encourages transit use. My word was trust, and trust, I meant it in two ways. One is trust in institutions, so trusting that Metro is taking the steps to keep us safe as transit riders, but also that when we can seek help, right, when we need it, and that our security services are multi-layered, right, so that it isn't just somebody with a gun that you're approaching when you have an issue, but it's somebody with a friendly face that can help you. So trust in institutions, and also trust in fellow riders, right, so that I know that when I'm on a bus or on a train, the people around me are not potential sources of danger, of violence. As somebody who has experienced violent crime, I have felt unsafe many times on our system, and so I think trust is vital, trust in each other. And so that's at the heart of my goal is creating a system that people, anybody and everybody thinks of first when they think of how to move around LA. I wrote some notes down here, and also removing stigma around transit so that it isn't something that is considered only a resource for people who absolutely need it, but that a resource that belongs to all of us because the city belongs to all of us. So thank you.
Thank you, Esteban. And up next is Daryl. And the word Daryl shared last time was equitable inclusion.
Oh, good evening, everyone. Well, as you said, my name is Daryl. I grew up in Southern California. I actually live in Downey, and I work in Pasadena, and I also work in LA. I work in View Park for two nonprofit organizations. So I've been in the human services, social services field for about 26 years. I would say when I was younger, when I was a child growing up and a young man, I had a background where I got transported back and forth to school, transported by my parents. I lived that, I don't know, I guess privileged lifestyle in a sense in that way. And then when I navigated through high school, went to college, entered the working world, I found myself supporting people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And part of what we did was teach people how to ride public transit. So I had to learn how to ride public transit. So that was quite an experience for me. And, you know, it's been an experience that I still value quite a bit. Like I said, I've been in the nonprofit human services field for about 26 years. And a lot of that time I was in direct care. So I would also work with people with mental illness. I've actually worked in inpatient psychiatric hospitals. I've worked for community-based nonprofit organizations for quite a while in a lot of different sectors in the field. So it's given me quite a bit of different experiences that I didn't have when I was growing up. So that's something I take pride in. I also have a 16-year-old and 14-year-old child. My number one job is being a parent, being a dad. My children are actually, you know, half Filipino. So aside from my son, who's 16 and not driving yet, taking public transit recently, I and my daughter considering taking public transit also, I worry about many of the safety issues in the community that existed prior to being brought to the forefront in the last year or two, but I have an increased level of concern. So that's part of why I was interested in doing this. But I also felt that, frankly, as just a member of the Southern California community, LA County community, I wanted to give back and be able to help make our community safer. My word was equitable inclusion. Basically, what I mean by that is to give the equitable factor is really the major portion of that, to give everybody an equal voice and include everyone in the process of redefining public safety on the metro system. What I want to achieve is basically to do just that, to increase the safety of everyone who utilizes the metro system from a therapeutic approach as well, to integrate a therapeutic approach in what we do, not just rely on one method of intervention, and to be a little bit more proactive in that way. And just briefly to say how I'm doing, I'm exhausted, but I'm still energized and reinvigorated. Last year has been very hard for all of us, I think, but I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to work with you all, and thank you.
Thank you, Daryl. Up next, we have got Constance.
Hello. I'm glad to be here with everyone. First of all, I want to apologize for missing last week, the start of our ritual together. I take this as, I'm taking this as sacred, so thank you. I didn't choose a word, and my word would be urgent. And after listening to everyone, I can see that for me, it is, in all of us, it's urgent that we come up with, I think, not only ideas, but maybe even concrete actions that can be taken to give to the committee board. I know I'm willing to experiment with some and see that we can, you know, give them hard facts, because I think we're at a crucial moment that's been boiling for a long time, and that discussion's pretty much almost done. That we have to have action because it is a public safety. And for people also with disability and mental health issues, it's also becoming a safety even for them and for all of us, because we're all carrying each other's issues when we get on the train, right? It's something we take on and kind of acknowledge. My interactions have been, you know, I've had violence against me on the metro. I've had to publicly defend myself when no one wants to step up, right? Because they all have to get home. So I hope that we accomplish concrete action, and I hope that we create ways to make metro luxury, you know, like this idea again, right? That everyone has pride in getting on the metro, and that we make sure that services are addressed, like that people who are doing their services, the police do police, but we don't need them to do other things. And so that metro has to invest in services that we can't wait for the city, right? You can't wait for the mayor, you can't wait for the governor, that you have to find ways to hire people who work with people, right? And who try to help people, and that it is therapeutic. I've, you know, for 14 years, 15 years, I've emailed people and have tried to figure out ways to participate with Metro. So I'm excited for this venture with all of you. And I think that we can make direct change immediately. And so I hope and look forward to doing that.
Thank you, Constance. Up next is Clarence, and the word shared last time was unity.
Good evening, everyone. Happy to be here, and thank you, everyone, for sharing your time. And I'd like to say that it's a lot more that unites us and separates us. I have a lot of similarities to many of you in your experiences throughout the years with Metro. With Metro, to me, well, it starts as my role as a child. For more than 20 years, 25 years, I've rode Metro. My grandmothers, on both sides, have rode Metro to work and clean homes and affluent neighborhoods, as well as come home and grocery shop and feed their families, as well as visit and go to church. Doctor's visits, my rides to school as a local LA resident, but also as a local resident in the county of Los Angeles that that rode the bus over 30 miles one way each day. Family visits, paying bills, and just being able to be in reach and in touch with my family as well. I have friends and family, even cancer patients, that use the bus every single day to go to their doctor's appointments and to meet other obligations. My definition is unity. Uh, Most of my years in Metro, my best experience is not just by what Metro offers, but what the community offers. And that, I mean, the people around me, the ones that ride the bus every day, the ones I pass through their neighborhoods that have also duties and obligations to take care of, helping each other, picking up things for each other, losing items, exposing different hazards, speaking positive things in existence, and also warning of signs ahead. You know, maybe too much traffic that way. Might have been an accident. Might want to be careful. For me, being a limited individual, as far as physically, Metro has meant more to me than I can ever say. It's like going to Cheers, where everybody knows your name and how to greet you. That's what unity means to me. If something's going on, if there's trouble, if you need to look left or right, if there's something bad happening, being able to identify and recognize your neighbors and your friend and your community brings upon unity. And unity is communication, and communication is safety, and that's safety in numbers. And I think one thing about unity is hard to accomplish with our new turn in making our neighborhoods and communities more dense. With more dense communities and neighborhoods, we lose sight of who we are and where we are. I think we need to look at that going forward. I understand that Metro is in charge of a lot of transportation as well as our roads and things that we use to navigate from neighborhood to neighborhood. Well, I think we can do a lot better by combining these neighborhoods and these ways of transportation that make more sense. Like someone said earlier, you was able to catch one bus from where you live at in your neighborhood to go to a most common site where we all need to go for our school, work, and public services as well. And then I also like to say, well, I hope the conference as being a part of this committee, forgive me for going so fast, is I hope to just be an asset to you all. We can share information as well as give each other insight into things we don't know or reiterate things we do know but forgotten about. And to speak for those who are forgotten, those who are not spoken up for, but also for those who ride these buses every single day and have seen the physical and the verbiage changes as far as public transportation. From those screens on the bus that allow you to know where you're at and what you're being a part of, to those bus drivers that happily greet you, know your name, and announce the stops. I think unity is what brings us all together. Being on one accord, it helps us, and being able to communicate is the first inference into how we make unity be a successful part of what makes Metro and LA County a better place to be.
Thank you, Clarence. Up next, we have Chauncey, and his word was equity.
Thank you, Richard. I appreciate you facilitating today's conversation. It's been a pleasure to hear a little bit more about each of the different committee members and the positive impact that Metro has had on everyone's lives. I'd also like to provide a thank you to Tamika for providing a heartening opening statement and really setting an appropriate frame for the current context in which we're living and acknowledging the circumstances that many of us are dealing with this outside of this current meeting, given all the tragedies that are going on around the nation that are impacting all of us. With that being said, to share a little bit more about myself, well, I've been a public transit rider for about the past 13 years or so. So in 2007, I left Los Angeles and moved to the East Coast and got rid of my car, given the nature in which that urban environment operates. And since then, I haven't owned a car up until the recently, like the past few weeks, just because of the complexity of circumstance that have arisen for myself because of COVID. So I rode public transit every day as my primary means of transportation in New York, cities like Philadelphia, Northern California, Sacramento, and then also in LA with Metro over the course of the past few years. And I believe that that lived experience has given me a macro perspective of the way in which public transit and public safety operates, not only here in LA, but also in other communities across our society. Now, in regards to my definition of public safety, I identified the word equity. And by equity, I mean that within the context of public safety, I think the common understanding is to equate it with policing and criminalization and preventing crime, right? But when you think about what's going on within our society and the things we're seeing and actually living through right now, it's really forcing us to rethink the concept of public safety, to expand the scope of that and think about the way in which we input resources and how they affect different communities. So to me, equity within the context of public transit amounts to not just using the default response of more law enforcement in order to suppress crime, but actually taking an imaginative approach and listening to the lived experience of people most impacted, right? So really seeing what they actually think would make them feel better. So for me, when it comes to public safety, I think about equity. And when I think about equity, I think about listening to folks on the ground to actually see what they are experiencing and see what they would like to have happen so that they feel safe as they go about their everyday lives.
Thank you, Chauncey. And up next, we have Charles. And Charles, the word you shared last time was protection.
Yes, I chose protection because I'm always looking for the ways to, where the rubber meets the road. How do we actually protect people on the bus? And in terms of background, I wrote the contract between LADOT and LAPD back in 2015. Just prior to Metro signing their contract. So I was involved with Commander Clark and a lot of LAPD staff, and they used my program with Dash as the basis or underlying test for the Metro policing contract. So I spent a lot of time working with Dash with my LAPD program, which was much different than Metro's even. Metro's doing a fine job, but we took the policing to a much more community level. We were like community policing on steroids. So I'm interested in hearing from the public how we did, because our management has stood down my my program since the political issues of last summer. We're not doing any policing on Dash or any protection. So I'm looking forward to our next contract with LAPD or community organizations, listening to people and saying, how do we want to go forward with protecting people on the Dash system? So very practical. In terms of background, I came from Detroit and I rode transit my entire life. After moving here and graduating from college, I was in security work for a long time, and from basic security guard to industrial types of things and bodyguarding. And then I came to the city and managed city right for persons with disabilities for many years. And then I had a chance to U-turn and come back and work on policing for Dash. And that's my story.
Thank you, Charles. And one quick note here. So it is 6:34. We are a bit over time for the committee members. I just want to float this. We're going to have 3 more folks introduce themselves, but just for y'all to think about, one option is that we table our 3rd agenda item, move to public comment, and wrap up for this meeting to get y'all out of here closer to on time. But I'd like to take a poll to see what folks would like to do. So think about it. But up next, we have got Carrie. And Carrie, the word that you shared last time was freedom.
Hi there, everyone. The reason I picked freedom is I'm a person with a disability. I'm a wheelchair user. Freedom and Metro go hand in hand for me. I'm able to use it independently, whereas other forms of transportation like a wheelchair accessible van or paratransit, I need help. And so when I'm rolling up to the bus stop or to a train station, it's great. It's absolute freedom for me. And being on this committee, I want to help other people with disabilities feel that freedom. I talk to other disabled people in my work. I'm a disability advocate. And I ask them, do you take the trains? Do you do the subway, buses? And a lot don't. They rely on paratransit because they're afraid. They've seen things out there. And I do understand that because I've seen things out there. I've experienced people chasing after me for no reason at all. It's just, I was just getting out of an elevator and they didn't like the fact that I used that elevator and they chased me. I like to be the voice of people with disabilities and elderly. Those are the communities I represent in my work. I work in the Skid Row area of downtown LA. I live out here in Chatsworth. I take the buses and the subways to get to work. It's a long commute. I think that what I bring to it is just a lifelong experience and the voices of my community. And I'm very happy to be a part of this. I see in your comments and what you want to do in this committee is a lot of the same stuff I want to do. So I'm just very happy to be a part of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. All right, up next is Ashley. And Ashley, the word you shared last time was futuristic.
Thank you for that. I'll just go ahead and start reading. I currently live in Koreatown. I used to live in North Hollywood, and I regularly used the Metro to go to school when I was going to school, and to work and to explore the city. Additionally, I participated in the Low Income Fare is Easy program, and I'd like to take a moment to share a personal experience, which I found to be personally traumatic and can be traumatic for others. So I just want to pause. But I'd just like to say that I've experienced 2 instances of sexual assault and was a witness to other instances on the Metro. At the second occurrence, I tried to report the incident to a police officer, but we actually watched the person walk away as they explained the reporting process to me and kind of dissuaded me from even proceeding that far. I've had things stolen from me and never retrieved on the Metro. I've gotten a ticket for fare evasion on the Metro and have gone through the appeals process, but I've also, experienced a lot of great things on the Metro. Like I mentioned earlier, exploring the city, all the great art at the subway stops. And I just like to say my experiences are far from the minority, but represent a large swath of people's experiences, particularly those subjected to the intersectional oppression of gender, race, and class. My one-word definition for public safety is futuristic simply because it does not and cannot exist in our current reality. And we need to radically reimagine Metro and how transit systems can function as hubs of community and not just places that people pass through or for commerce. And I believe this committee can be a great opportunity to push the boundaries of what's possible and just sow the seeds of change. I think this is a great beginning to what we need to do and continually push the boundaries of what's possible. For me, a lot of people have said a lot of really awesome things, and I'm still thinking through them, but I want to highlight like promoting dignity for folks who access the metro, for differently abled folks, for non-binary folks, for women, and for transit operators, like some of you all said. And I'll just add really quickly, I think we need to advocate for systemic assessment measures and benchmarks to check for Metro's proper alignment to the stated goal to shift resources from armed law enforcement to community-based alternatives. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing, Ashley. And up next is Andrea.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for your time. I think I'm the last one, so we made it. I'm a Carlos Angelino. I relied primarily on public transit for the last 12 years since I've moved to LA proper. I live in downtown right now and work in Culver City, so I'm a frequent red and purple and Expo line rider. I grew up in Rowland Heights, and for a time I was living with my parents, so I was using Foothill Transit and MetroLink to connect to Metro to get to work near Sunset in Vermont. And for a time I lived in Echo Park, so I would take the 704 to get to work at a job in Santa Monica. I feel like I benefited and like have really used all the multimodal options that the city and that Metro and the county have available. And as a rider, I feel like I've covered a lot of the city and I've learned a great deal about my fellow Angelinos. To me, transit riding is a special, often joyful community act where I feel like we're all in this together. Like I was just thinking like, one of my favorite experiences is when I see somebody like running for the bus and like just barely makes it because like the bus rider like waits a little bit longer, like the train doors just like happen to stay open for a little bit longer. Like I always like do a little cheer. And to me, like that's like one part of this community experience. But at the same time, like I also feel like it is a scary and dangerous act at times. And I've experienced my own safety threats and have my own safety concerns as a female rider, which is why I've decided to volunteer my time to this committee. So the word that I used last meeting was solidarity. And I feel like we've all come here with different experiences and different backgrounds. And it's been really beautiful to hear everybody's stories. But the key is to come together to focus on this shared goal that we have of providing a safe and equitable system for all Angelinos and using our diverse backgrounds and talents and resources to work towards it. And so as a member of this committee, actually this past year has been emotionally exhausting, but it's motivated me to speak up and take up space, coming from a cultural background where I feel like I was taught not to rock the boat and stay silent. So I really want to advocate and really listen to what the public has to say. And hopefully we get a chance to like really identify our needs as a community, as well as identify the key partnerships with like mental health and housing services so that the solutions that we propose not only have the full support of our community, but also like we're not having to reinvent the wheel by using these existing resources so that we can have a really efficient and immediate response to the issues that we identify. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. And thank you all committee members just for taking the time to share and for taking the time to listen. I feel like I learned so much from all of you and I'm just looking forward more and more to the conversations that we're going to have. So to my earlier point of we are over schedule and we need to rectify that. My suggestion is that we table our item 3 and move that to the beginning of the next meeting that we have and move into public comment and then wrap things up. But I want to poll the committee members to see if folks are amenable to that idea or if you would rather just power through. So if folks would like to table the next agenda item and move to public comment and adjourn, please use the raise hand feature. Okay, It looks like we've got 14, 15 raised hands. So I am going to say that that is the decision of the committee. So let's move into just general public comment for attendees. I'm going to turn it over to Thompson to walk us through this before we wrap up.
Thanks, Richard. Before we move to public comment, Clarence, I saw your hand was up. Did you have a question? Oh, that was just a vote. Understood. So moving into public comment, I see we have at the moment 4 hand raised. So our first public comment is DeRosa. I will turn it over to you. Please unmute yourself. You have 1 minute. DeRosa, it is your time for public comment. You have 1 minute. Caller, are you there?
She provided text in the chat, I believe. She definitely doesn't have a mic.
Thank you for that. I will read the text. If you could start the timer, please. It reads, I believe that Metro needs to invest the money that they use to pay contract security, blue shirts, into the in-house security, black shirts, whom are MTA employees. They receive the same training as law enforcement, and it is more extensive than a 24-hour state security program, ESIS. A sense of ownership comes from employees rather than from contractors whose sole interest is money. It is like hiring a contractor and letting them dictate what they want to work on and not what you want done. MTA security, black shirts, has significant potential to make the safety of our stakeholders a more memorable one. One of the main reasons that Metro Transit Security black shirts is not visible throughout the system is because their budget is limited as well as staff levels. How is it possible to give a greater budget to a contractor rather than to your own employees? Please take this into consideration, and I hope that you look into and make recommendations to grow the in-house security department. Thank you for your comment. Up next, we have the caller ending in 9437. Caller 9437, I will allow you to talk, and to unmute on phone, you're just going to go ahead and dial *6 to unmute on phone. You have 1 minute.
Hello, and thank you so much. I appreciate it. I don't know how else to say what I have to say other than to just say it straight out. I absolutely hate the way MTA does things. You have this whole safety committee and things are still not improving out here. Let me give you one specific example. A 20-minute wait for the Orange Line, let's just say Van Nuys Station, Sepulveda Station, Reseda Station, North Hollywood Station, okay? Do you have any idea what a 20-minute wait does to somebody's commute, number one, but number two, with safety? 20 minutes is an eternity for thugs to assess you and to commit a crime against you. I have seen this over and over and over again. You had a rape, allegedly had a rape at Sunset and Vermont Red Line Station. Do you really think that these people who commit these violent crimes are going to change their mind about this with these supposed community ambassadors that you want to send out here to kiss people's asses?
Thank you,
You
caller.
hate the police so much. How much longer before the chaos stops?
Thank you, caller.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Our next comment is Richard Hedges. Richard, I will allow you to talk, and you'll need to unmute yourself. You have 1 minute.
Thank you very much. I was recommended after I put this in the chat that I say it in a public comment. I would recommend rules of order would be Rosenberg's General Rules of Order. I can supply it to you as also a cheat sheet for the committee members. It's used by CCAG. It's very simple. If you're using more complicated rules of order, someone who's schooled in them can tie your meeting up all night long. I've experienced that, trust me. I would like to make one comment about ambassadors. I think they're a good idea, but you're going to have somebody armed in the vicinity that can back them up. if they themselves are threatened. Not everybody will be polite if you ask them not to do something. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment. Our next caller is Mike. Mike, I'm going to allow you to talk and you'll need to unmute yourself. You have 1 minute for your comment.
Hi, thank you. I've been living in Boyle Heights now for about 16 years, and we have a beautiful metro station at Mariachi Plaza. I used Metro often prior to March 2020, but haven't used it for the last year due to concerns around COVID, social distancing, and what I've experienced in the past was, I'm pretty sure there's a few folks who won't follow the CDC safety suggestions. My question is, I've heard Metro wants to go fare free, and do you think this will make the security issues with those homeless folks with mental health issues worse? Thank you.
Thank you for your Thank you for your comment, caller. Up next, we have Helen Lynn. Helen, are you still? Oh, I see your hand has gone down. Up next, we have Enrique. Enrique, I will allow you to talk. You have 1 minute for your comment. Enrique, are you there? Okay. Next caller, we have Fran. Fran, I'm going to allow you to talk, and you have 1 minute for your comment. Fran, you'll just need to unmute yourself. Fran, you'll need to unmute yourself.
Thompson, I think there's a chat for Branson.
Thank you for that. I have a comment from Fran in the chat. It reads, I'm Fran Sarasaris, and how can I get on your Metro Public Safety Advisory Committee? I'm a senior and use a power wheelchair, and they left their contact info, which will be duly noted in the report. Thank you for your comment, caller. And I have a hand raised from Jonathan Lozano. Jonathan, I'm going to allow you to talk, and if you could unmute yourself, you have 1 minute.
Sure, thank you. I guess my question would be more regards of this. I'm looking at the Metro Public website and I see the actual charge for the federal committee, but yet looking at the actual previous meeting notes and the current meeting agenda we basically had today, I'm trying to figure out what the actual plan for this committee actually is in terms of actual tangible items. I'm not sure if this is something that was discussed in the last previous meeting, but it was not discussed during this meeting. And I personally feel if this committee is more of an actual steering committee when it comes to actual public safety advisory and public safety in general, I'm wondering if there is going to be a talk within the first two meetings, I would say, of actually getting goals done and assigned before we go on to full introductions and the entire Q&A that we had today in regards to each of the actual committee members. Thank you.
Thank you, caller, for your comment. I have a raised hand from someone previous. I'm going to call on them again. Enrique, I am going to allow you to talk and ask you to unmute. Please, you have 1 minute for your comment. Enrique, you'll need to unmute yourself and have 1 minute for your comment. Enrique, you'll need to unmute yourself. Okay, moving on to the next caller. We have a comment from Arius. Arius, I'm going to allow you to talk and please unmute yourself. You have 1 minute for your comment.
Hi, yes. This information was very valuable and thank everybody for participating. I just wanted to know, are you guys reaching out to any small businesses, any minority-owned businesses to help you in this mission to fight all the before mentioned problems of public transportation? Thank you, and I really enjoy being a part of this conversation.
Thank you, caller, for your comment. And we have one final comment from Sean. Sean, I'm going to allow you to talk and you'll need to unmute yourself. You have 1 minute for your comment.
Hi, my name is Sean Davis. I'm actually the Park Mesa Heights Community Council member, Plum Chair. However, I'm not representing that today. What I am representing is being a stakeholder of this particular community where there now, where there's a railroad, there's a metro link that's going down Crenshaw Boulevard that's impeding on the immediate community because developers are coming in like a whirlwind, destroying our commercial areas. So my question is to you and your organization and your group and your committee, how do you navigate in helping the community to preserve the integrity of what is already there? Because this is very troublesome. A lot of people in our community are seniors, and you have slowly but surely dismantled what was once an oasis to the generations not just in existence, but
Thank
the
you
future.
for your comment, caller. Richard, there are no further public comments.
All right, well, thank you, folks. And that with agenda item 3 tabled, we just got through agenda item number 4. And we are moving to adjournment now. So just for folks participating and for our committee members, please join us for our next meeting, which will be Wednesday, May 5th from 5 to 6:30 p.m. With that, the meeting is adjourned, but we will keep the space open in case any of the committee members or anything have any follow-ups. But that is it. Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Richard.
Bye. See you
Have
guys
a
next
good
time.
night.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Ashley?
Okay, yes.
Hi, while you're still here, I just wanted to thank you for sharing. I really appreciate that. I know that that's not easy to share, and I know that that's probably even harder to share publicly, so.
Sure. No, I thank you so much for saying that. And I really enjoyed hearing from all of the committee members and listening, and I'm really glad I wrote it out before because it was a lot to listen to, but I appreciate what you said as well. Yeah. So, okay, well, I guess we should leave now. See you next time.
Thank you all.